Hello, everybody. This is Astrid Amberwolf, and today I am bringing you the first episode of a new series I'm doing called The Next Step. I am so excited to bring this series, and I do need to thank the sponsors here at Furgrove who have all given in their money to put towards rescue horses so we can rehabilitate them and train them and hopefully pass them on to new owners at the end of the year. I am so excited to start this series, and I'm very glad to have an opportunity to help these poor horses in their time of need. I just really want to get going today. We are rescuing our first horse, and this is the first episode, and I'm just really excited to get into it and start doing work. Thank you for everyone for supporting my channel. So it's about 7 a.m. I got up early as always so I could get started and go just as soon as possible. I hooked up the trailer because I'm pretty sure I knew we were going to be taking the horse home today. We're not looking for quality or anything. We're just looking for a horse that needs support and a home. So we started going pretty early in the morning. It was a little bit bumpy and the sky was still a bit dark. But it was, for the most part, a nice journey, and it just gave us some time away from the farm, which is something that is always nice. We do have a lot of animals to take care of, and we thought that doing this series would just be a great opportunity to help all of these horses in need before they are sent off to slaughter, since a lot of the rescue ponies who cannot find owners are unfortunately done so. But while we're driving, I want to talk a little bit about the beautiful horse we're going to go see today. And he is honestly just breathtaking, and it's such a sad story. The first horse we are visiting is the Eagles Valor SE, or Valor, who is an ex-race horse, and he was unfortunately subjected to abuse in his past, as most racetracks do not really care about their horses or the contestants, so he was pretty much in for it when he was chosen by a racer. We did end up having some clips found of the old rider using him before the horse was confiscated and brought to the rescue center. It's just really sad to see. He was using spurs and all of these horrible bits and stuff. I'm going to warn you that the next image may be a little bit graphic, so if you do not want to see that, I would recommend you skip a little bit ahead. This is a picture of Valor when he was first brought in. You can see he was in an awful condition. He had scrapes and cuts everywhere. He even had scrapes on his side where the old rider used spurs on him. He was very thin and just underweight in general. He did not trust anyone, and he kept his distance from absolutely everyone, including other horses. Apparently, his story is that he was not used anymore after he stopped winning on the track. So his rider just kept him in a stall all day and night and barely fed him the minimum amount that he needed. He was confiscated about, I'd say, 5 months ago, I think they said, and he was nursed back to health from there, but he still does not seem to be friendly with humans. He's not aggravated or aggressive, but he's just very afraid of them in general and does not like to be near them. He will not attack you, but he just tries to keep his distance, and he's very skittish. We arrived at the stables about an hour after departing. Something I was a little bit worried about is that they told me that he does not trailer well and he's very afraid of the trailer, so an hour-long drive may not be the best introduction. Luckily, though, we did get a vet to be able to administer him some tranquilizers to keep him calm on the journey home. I do have to say they have an amazing facility here, and I really love the work they are doing with trying to rehome all of these rescue horses. These are some clips of Valor I just got from mostly the stable manager, but also I took a couple of them myself. He has amazing gaits, which is something that's unusual for an ex-race horse because they're not really worried about grace, they're worried about speed. But I do see a lot of potential in him. Obviously, in these clips, he is fully healed because they did make sure to treat all of his injuries before putting him up for adoption or sale, because he is up for, I think, 500 Jorvik shillings, which is very cheap, because they said they are looking for an available trainer, which luckily I am a licensed trainer, so I thought that would be a great place to start with him. I arrived at the stables and immediately headed to where Valor was kept in the open paddock, which is something I thought was really nice. And I waited a bit by the fence to make sure he was used to my presence before I actually entered inside, as I did not want to spook him. He was in the far corner and keeping his distance like I was told he would. He was in the corner with his butt to the rest of the paddock, just doing his own little thing, and he was just minding his own business. I headed up to him very slowly with his halter in hand, and something I do like is they left him in an open paddock, so if he was uncomfortable, he wouldn't be forced into the halter. I made sure that I waited a little bit before moving any closer and giving him a chance to move away if he needed, just to make sure he didn't feel pressured. After waiting, I very slowly approached and went and held the halter out. And when he got close enough and he put his nose in it, I slipped it on, just to make sure he was comfortable with the whole thing. He was a little bit difficult to lead. When I was leading him out of the paddock, they seemed to be no problem. But as soon as we left the paddock, he seemed to not want to move. I got a couple clips of him stopping and just refusing to move, but I just waited with him, kept tugging very lightly on the halter, just to make sure that he didn't feel pressured into anything yet again. As with all of these very kind of scarred horses, you need to make sure that they know that you are working with them and not forcing them. So after he stopped and I kept tugging a little bit, he was fine and he continued walking towards the gate with me. He was pretty good on the lead in. We did have a couple stops on the way to the stable, but it wasn't nothing really bad. He was very kind of wary of what was happening around him and just generally skittish. So once we got him into a large open stall, so he would have some room to move around, the vets at Jarlahelm were very kind and they did a checkup for free. We did call in our own vet though, because I thought that might have been a red flag. So we did get our own personal vet to do it, which was very nice of her to come all the way out here with us. And she gave us the all clear. You can see here how he was very skeptical of what she was doing, and he kept checking on her to make sure like she knew exactly what was happening at all times. He's just very kind of not trusting. So after she gave us the all clear, we put on his shipping boots and got him ready to go. He was very reluctant to put on his boots, but he was very difficult. But that's something you need to expect with these kind of, I want to say inexperienced, because they do not know or have the experience that a normal horse would have. Leading him the second time around was a bit easier. I think he noticed that it would be more difficult to fight me on this one than to just move, because I think he has figured out that if he stops, we're just going to keep on going afterwards. So he was very smooth, I guess, with his walking towards the trailer, but we did have a small problem when we reached the trailer. Walking down here, he was fine because he thought we were going back to the paddock, but when we passed it and got to the trailer, he got very nervous, and when we started to load him up, he reared and tried to back out. So we kind of stopped and let him have his time, and then we tried again. I let him sniff around. We put some treats in the bottom of the trailer to kind of get him in. We did have him tranquilized beforehand, so he was a bit drowsy, and towards the end he just loaded right in, and he was more okay with it on the ride back home. We did leave the trailer door open slightly so he could get a feel for it before moving off, and he seemed to be all okay, so we closed the door of the trailer and went home. I immediately unloaded him because I did not want him to get anxious or uncomfortable, and he was so happy to get out of the trailer, so that was something that we now have experienced. But I immediately led him to the pastures to give him his own alone time, as I figured he might need after this day. He was very still aware and very confused on what was happening, as was to be expected after moving him to a new home, an entirely new location after his past. So I just took off his boots and his halter. He stood still while I did this, but he was tugging at me so he could go. And as soon as I took off the halter, he went running. But luckily, we have a pretty big pastures, so he was fine and found a nice grazing spot, and he seemed to calm right down after that. We did have someone to check on him every hour to make sure he was okay. Maya did this, thankfully. For Maya, honestly, we need to give her a shout out. She also helped to fund this. I need to thank her so much for giving us some funding for him. Valor is honestly has so much potential. He's just a very bright horse, and he's pretty young as well, so that's just something I need to concern. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I am doing the outro with Valor in the background. I am giving him his space. The next couple videos might be me working with Valor, but I am going to leave him about another week extra than I would a normal horse that we transfer, because I just want to give him his time and not rush him into anything. But thank you so much for making this possible and watching today's video. I love you all so much. I'll see you all next time. Bye!